We are happy to welcome Larry Sherwood, a distinguished leader in the renewable energy field, as a speaker at TALtalks. Larry serves as the president and CEO of the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, known as IREC, where he has amassed over 45 years of experience in advancing clean energy solutions. IREC, under Larry's visionary guidance, has been at the forefront of enabling clean energy access for millions of Americans. Their innovative solutions drive progress in renewable energy, electric grid modernization, and energy efficiency, benefiting people, the economy, and our planet. Larry's unwavering dedication to developing solar and renewable energy sources has made him a highly respected figure in the industry. He believes that renewables hold the key to solving many of our energy challenges and should be implemented safely for the benefit of consumers. Join us at TALtalks to hear Larry Sherwood share his insights and the transformative impact of IREC's work. Together, we can pave the way for a sustainable energy future that benefits us all.
It's very nice and a pleasure to be here. I'm going to talk to you about my journey and what I have learned to make change, and my change is bringing solar energy to the world. My story starts 50 years ago this fall. 50 years ago this fall, there was another Israeli conflict, and the United States was involved in that. And because of that conflict and the United States' support of Israel, Saudi Arabia and other Arab oil-producing countries cut off exports of oil to the United States. You can't exactly see here, but these gas pumps say out of gas. There was not enough energy to run our economy, and when there was gas available, there were really long lines of people to get gas. At that time, I was a college student in rural New England. New England heated its buildings almost exclusively with fuel oil. And so when oil was not available, that was a problem for heating homes and businesses in New England. The college I attended had 2 trucks this size that drove up every day in the wintertime to supply fuel oil. But since fuel oil was in short supply, my college closed for a week of the winter term to save oil. So at that time, I was just like, there has to be a better solution to powering our economy. And I thought that better solution was solar energy. I read books about solar energy. There were probably 5 books at that time. I took the one class at my university on solar energy, and then when I graduated, I looked for a job in solar energy. At that time, there were just a few companies, a few people. There was this directory of everybody who was involved in solar energy. It was really thin, that directory. I called all those people, and eventually I got a job as a Vista volunteer, which was my generation's version of AmeriCorps, and I worked for the New Mexico Solar Energy Association. My job there was to help low-income people in New Mexico with do-it-yourself solar projects that they could do on their own houses. At that time, there was no installations of solar electricity or photovoltaics. The only uses of photovoltaics were in space. It was so expensive you could not use it on the Earth down here. And so what we worked on were passive solar buildings. So these two houses use the energy of the sun that comes in through those windows to heat the houses. And the other picture here is of people building a solar greenhouse attached to a building. These we did many barn raising workshops, were great do-it-yourself projects. The solar greenhouse both helped heat the house and it provided a space to grow vegetables in the cold New Mexico winter. While there, I met many wonderful people. These are two of my colleagues, Ann and Michael, who we had dinner with last year. But there were many smart people that went through that organization, partly because many were VISTA volunteers, but also just people changing jobs. I felt that the future of solar energy was going to be much more successful if we could be much more long-term, stay with organizations longer and make an impact. So I learned at that point that in order to make change, you have to have a long-term commitment. From there, I went to work for the New England Solar Energy Association. I did similar work to what I was doing in New Mexico, except I was doing it for professionals. So I worked with builders, with architects, with engineers, with materials suppliers to help them incorporate solar into their building projects. And I was funded with a government grant to do that work. When I was there, Ronald Reagan was elected president, and very quickly after he took office, he cut the federal solar budget by about 90%. My grant that funded my work there went away. At that point, I went to working half-time, and my organization changed its business model and worked much more on running professional conferences, other educational activities that generated revenue, and moved away from grant support. Then, a few years later, the tax credits that were supporting the solar industry went away, and installations went way down. The number of companies doing solar work went way down. Just the general economic flow around solar energy was really low at that time. So working for a nonprofit organization, it meant that there was just less money flowing in our world to support the organization. At this time, I became the CEO of this organization and really worked on a shoestring budget to make the organization be able to do our mission. I then became the executive director of the American Solar Energy Society, which was the parent organization of both the New Mexico and New England organizations that I had worked for. When I arrived at ACES, I had a desk filled with bills. I had all these bills to pay. I had no money in the bank. And so I had to work on raising money and putting that organization on strong financial footing. We did that, and we created a number of programs that are still running today. We created a magazine called Solar Today magazine. We ran a national conference. Next year's version will be the 53rd annual version of this conference. When I worked there, it was the financial engine that helped the organization be successul. And while I worked there, we created a national solar home tour that allowed anybody in the country to have a house, a solar building that was near to them, that they could go tour and see what solar was like. I worked at ACES for 13 years, so there was staying for a long time to have an impact, and that's what I did. I left ACES in 2001, and at that time I formed a consulting company, but I was still working a lot in the nonprofit sector. I became the executive director of the Small Wind Certification Council, which certified the performance of wind turbines, so consumers knew exactly how they worked. And I was the administrator of the Solar America Board for Codes and Standards, which brought together different stakeholders to work on building codes and other issues that were slowing the installation of solar energy. At that time, I started working as a consultant for the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. I ran some education programs. I edited a newsletter. I wrote an annual report on market trends for solar energy. And then in 2016, I became the CEO of IREC. And since I've been the CEO, I merged the organization with another organization that had similar visions of what it was doing, the Solar Foundation. And so the Solar Foundation and IREC merged, roughly doubling the size of the organization. And with other opportunities that we've built over this period, have seen a big growth in employees and budget and impact of what we can do. So over all these years, we've seen tremendous growth in clean energy technologies. We've seen tremendous decrease in the cost of these technologies. And with the Inflation Reduction Act and other government programs, there are robust incentives and other programs promoting clean energy projects all over the country. However, there still are problems and barriers to installing these. And these are four of the really big barriers today: interconnection, permitting, getting workers to do the work of installing and designing systems, And then international trade, manufacturing, supply chain. How do we get the actual products to be able to use that? And I am proud to say that IREC works on 3 of the 4 of the really big problems that are out there today. Interconnection is the connecting of a solar or clean energy generating system to the electric grid. So in general, you want the solar electricity that's being generated to be able to flow in to the electric grid. And in order to make that connection, you have to get a permit, and you have to make sure that the system is compatible with the grid and isn't causing any safety problems. What's happening now is that the number of systems that are in line to get connected is growing really, really fast. And the time that it takes to get connected is growing fast, which means often 4 or 5 years to connect a system. And the cost of connecting is also growing really fast. Those are all big problems. IREC develops solutions to those problems and has rules that state regulatory commissions can adopt, and we have attorneys and engineers who work at those regulatory bodies to get those rules adopted. In order to make a clean energy future possible and take advantage of all these government incentives, we're going to need millions of more clean energy workers. And we all know that in today's economy, it's many companies, many fields are having trouble attracting the workers that they need. So IREC has created a program called Green Workforce Connect, which connects job seekers with training programs, connects training programs with employers, so the skills that are being taught are the real skills that people need for their jobs. And through these connections and these programs, creating a robust pipeline of workers who can power this clean energy future. We run a program called SoulSmart, which designates communities as being solar friendly. There are a number of different aspects to that, but one is permitting and making sure that communities have efficient permitting systems, fast permitting systems, and we work with communities to help them set up these efficient permitting, zoning, other programs, and then we designate them as a SoulSmart community. We have designated over 500 communities across the country and designate about 100 new communities each year. So over my career, looking at the advances of solar energy, I feel that it is really important to have a long-term commitment, a long-term vision to make change, not to be beaten down or discouraged when times are tough, when money is challenging to raise, but to keep that long-term vision and to work to make the world a better place. Thank you.